Hello friends, welcome to the Anthem Coach YouTube channel. Free will refers to the ability to act according to one's own will and decisions, without external influence or predetermined causes. With free will, we have the power to make our own decisions and choose our options based on our desires. It is commonly believed that decisions such as what to eat, what to wear, where to go, whom to meet or call, when to sleep or wake up, which field to study, what profession to pursue, whom to marry, and what kind of house to build, all these small and big choices in our lives are made by our own will. But what if you were told that choices like what to eat or where to go are beyond your control, and that, in fact, you can't even blink your eyes at will? What if you were told that decisions such as which profession you will pursue, or even the next word you will speak, are not made by you but by someone else? What if you were told that what you believe to be free will was never truly free? So, what is true free will? In today's video, we will explore the mysteries surrounding free will with the insights of modern science and Advaita Vedanta. Benjamin Libet was a renowned American neuroscientist who, in 1983, conducted a groundbreaking experiment on free will with his team. In this experiment, participants wore an electrode cap that recorded the electrical activity of their brains. The participants were seated in a chair with a button and a clock placed in front of them. They were instructed to press the button whenever they wished, but when they decided to do so, they should look at the clock and note the time. During the experiment, Libet's team recorded the participants' readiness potential. To clarify, readiness potential is the electrical activity in the brain that occurs just before a voluntary action, such as pressing a button. This activity begins before we consciously decide to perform the action, suggesting that our brain is already preparing to carry it out. Libet and his team found that the readiness potential was recorded about 500 milliseconds before the participants consciously decided to press the button. This meant that the brain had already made the decision to press the button before the participants were even aware of it. This result was indeed strange, because we typically believe that when we perform an action, we first consciously decide to act, and then our brain sends signals to our body to carry out that decision. In the context of Libet's experiment, the process should ideally be: we consciously decide to press the button, our brain sends a signal to our hand, and then we press the button. However, the process did not occur this way. The results of Libet's experiment were entirely the opposite. The experiment's findings showed that before we consciously decided to press the button, the brain had already sent the signal to our hand to do so. In simple terms, before we consciously made the decision, our brain had already made it for us. You might think that the brain is indeed part of our body, and it absolutely is. However, the critical question raised by Libet's experiment is: where did the signal to press the button come from before we consciously decided to do so? What is this mysterious force that, without our awareness, prompted the brain to initiate the act of pressing the button? Is it that what we believe to be our own decisions are actually made by someone else? Is free will merely an illusion? The biological perspective on free will suggests that our behavior is influenced by our brain, genes, and evolutionary factors, which affect our ability to make decisions. Thus, our desires may not be entirely free. In fact, if you think about it, the very existence of options challenges the concept of free will, because we are limited to choosing only from the options available to us. And remember, not choosing any option is also a choice. Let me now tell you about an interesting experiment that demonstrates how we can influence someone's brain to control their desires without their awareness. Researchers at China's Zhejiang University have developed a system that wirelessly connects the human brain to a rat's brain. This system is called the brain-to-brain interface. This system has three main components. The first is the human operator, the second is the rat cyborg, and the third is the computer. The human operator is the person who controls the rat's movements. They wear an electrode cap that records the electrical activity of their brain. The rat cyborg is a rat with microelectrodes implanted in brain areas that control its movements, and the computer serves as the interface connecting the human operator to the rat cyborg. When the human operator thinks about a specific instruction, such as turning right or left, or moving forward or backward, electrical signals begin to form in their brain. These signals are recorded by the electrode cap and sent to the computer. The computer translates these electrical signals into neural stimulation signals, which are then transmitted to the microelectrodes implanted in the rat's brain. This activates neurons in the rat's brain, causing it to move in the direction the human operator intended. Let me tell you that this entire process happens in real time. During the experiment, using the brain-to-brain interface system, the rat was instructed to complete various navigation tasks, including turning left or right, climbing stairs, and navigating a 3D maze. Notably, the rat completed all of these tasks with a 100% success rate. In this experiment, through the brain-to-brain interface system, researchers overrode the rat's autonomous decision-making process and controlled its movements and behavior. From the rat's perspective, it feels as though its actions are occurring by its own choice and intention, giving it a sense of agency or free will. However, in reality, external signals transmitted through microelectrodes implanted in its brain by humans control its neural activity and dictate its movements. In the context of this experiment, the rat's subjective experience of free will is an illusion because its actions are ultimately determined by external manipulation rather than its own autonomous decision-making. After learning about this experiment, you might wonder whether it's possible to control human desires as well. Since a rat's brain is smaller and less complex than a human brain, it can be manipulated to control its desires. But could the human brain also be manipulated? Could human desires also be controlled? A 1990 experiment conducted by K. Aman and C. Gandia provides affirmative answers to these questions. In this experiment, specific regions of the participants' brains were stimulated using a magnetic field, a technique known as transcranial magnetic stimulation or TMS. TMS is a non-invasive technique. During the experiment, right-handed participants were given a task where they had to choose between using their right or left hand. Under normal conditions, right-handed individuals typically use their right hand about 60% of the time for such tasks. However, when the right hemisphere of the participants' brains was stimulated via TMS, they began using their left hand instead. When asked afterward whether the decision to use their left hand instead of their right was their own choice, all of them responded that the decision to use their left hand was made freely and felt completely natural to them. In reality, however, the TMS had subtly influenced them to perform the task with their left hand. This experiment demonstrates that external factors can influence people's decision-making processes, even though they often don't consciously perceive these influences. If a human can hack the brain of another human or creature and control its desires without its awareness, isn't it possible that our own desires could also be controlled by someone or something without our knowing? Could the mysterious power I mentioned earlier, the one that sends signals to our brain, be none other than the universe itself? To ensure the cosmic flow remains undisturbed, the universe might decide everything in advance for us. As we discussed in the previous video, the laws of the universe, which strip us of our freedom and bind us in limitations, are essentially Maya, illusion. Therefore, we can say that a being trapped in this illusory world can never truly experience real free will. The universe has preordained everything for us, making it impossible to alter. This is what we commonly refer to as destiny or fate. The concept of determinism, which closely aligns with fatalism, asserts that every event in the universe, whether natural or related to human behavior, is determined by preceding causes and circumstances. It describes a deterministic universe where free will is merely an illusion. Sir Isaac Newton was also a proponent of determinism. His laws of motion and the universal theory of gravitation suggest that if the initial conditions of a system are known precisely, all future states of that system can be predicted within the framework of classical mechanics. However, most people are reluctant to accept fatalism or determinism because they feel it would render their lives meaningless. If everything is predetermined, what significance would their efforts and struggles have? Their ego prevents them from accepting determinism or denying the concept of free will. Most motivational speakers often claim that humans are completely free, that they can achieve whatever they want and become whoever they wish to be. However, this is not entirely true. We all seek happiness in life, but we cannot prevent the tragic events that occur suddenly. These events force us to adjust our desires and remind us of our inherent dependence on the environment. The choices we make today may be influenced by past experiences, but we do not control the outcomes these choices will bring in the future. In the intricate fabric of reality, everything is interconnected. The desires of others influence our own, and similarly, even our smallest actions impact the entire universe. This phenomenon is known as the butterfly effect, where a small change in one part of a system can lead to significant changes in another. For example, the flutter of a butterfly's wings in one part of the earth can cause a storm in another. From the perspective of Advaita Vedanta, if a single being realizes their true Brahman nature and attains liberation, the entire world moves several steps closer to liberation. We are often told to do good deeds, but if we look closely, good and bad are subjective concepts. What I perceive as good, you might see as bad, and what I consider bad, you might view as good. Whether an action is considered good or bad is often determined by its outcomes, and we place importance on free will because we focus on the results of actions. Attaching ourselves to the results of our actions binds us. Therefore, do the work that feels meaningful to you and enjoy the process without worrying about the outcomes. This is, in fact, the essence of nishkama karma, or selfless action. If you perform actions selflessly, the presence or absence of free will becomes irrelevant to you. By detaching yourself from the results of your actions, you experience true freedom. Consider it this way. Your ego gives rise to a sense of doership, which in turn creates a desire to associate your name with so-called good deeds. This is why you start worrying about the outcomes of your actions. But when your ego dissolves, the sense of doership vanishes, and you stop being concerned about the results of your actions. When you no longer worry about outcomes, the endless desires and cravings tied to those results fade away. And when there is no desire, what does it matter to you whether free will exists or not? With the end of doership comes the awakening of the witness consciousness, where you begin to observe every event in life as a detached spectator, free from emotional involvement. It's akin to a spectator watching a play on stage. As long as you carry the sense of doership, you are a character in the drama of life. But when the witness state arises within you, you become an observer, untouched by the character's notions of good and bad, sin and virtue, joy and sorrow. You transcend all emotions and attain liberation. Now, let's explore the perspectives of different Indian philosophers on free will. Swami Vivekananda believed that free will doesn't truly exist, as the concept itself is contradictory. The universe in which we seek freedom is bound by time, space, and causation. To attain true freedom, one must transcend these limitations of the universe. Genuine free will cannot be attained, however, while our desires may not be free. There is something beyond these desires that has always been free. It is simply a matter of recognizing it. According to Sankhya philosophy, true freedom lies in the Purusha or soul, realizing itself as distinct from Prakriti or nature. Gaudapadacharya argued that since there is no real will or individual soul, the question of personal free will does not arise. Ramana Maharshi asserted that true freedom lies in transcending the ego, in recognizing the unity of the soul and Brahman. Sri Aurobindo Ghosh proposed that through spiritual discipline and surrender to the divine will, one can align personal desires with the divine will, leading to peace and fulfillment. Shraman Shankar Dev held that personal will is a manifestation of divine will, and true freedom is found in surrendering our ego and desires to Krishna. Finally, let us understand free will from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta maintains that our desires are not free. In other words, our decisions are not under our control, because decisions are made by the mind, which is a part of Maya, or illusion. The mind has no independent existence. As part of Maya, the mind itself is an illusion, while our true nature, the soul, exists beyond the mind. According to Advaita Vedanta, recognizing one's Brahman nature is the true form of free will. By transcending the instability of the mind, one can experience their true essence as Brahman. This realization liberates one from the illusion of individuality, the sense of ego, and the concepts of choice and control. Imagine watching a film. For a while, you begin to feel a sense of oneness with the characters. You experience different emotions, joy, sorrow, fear, anger, based on what's happening on the screen. Similarly, in life, we feel a sense of unity with the mind. And as the mind becomes entangled in the drama of daily experiences, thoughts, emotions, and sensations, we experience various feelings like happiness and sorrow. By identifying with the mind, we develop a sense of agency and control, as if we are making the decisions ourselves. However, just as we are not the characters in the film but merely the viewers, we are not the mind but the witness observing the mind's activities. We are the consciousness beyond the mind's boundaries. When we recognize this truth, we detach from the mind and begin observing its play as a spectator. This witness state frees us from the illusions of choice and control. Therefore, directing our awareness toward recognizing our true essence, rather than getting lost in the mind's play, is the true exercise of free will. This doesn't mean that the mind has no role in realizing our true nature. The mind and intellect are essential tools on the path to liberation. Knowledge arises within the intellect, but it is not the intellect or mind that realizes this knowledge. It is you, the self, who attains it. Think of your brain as a computer and your thoughts as the software running on it. Now imagine installing a new program called Enlighten Pro, designed to help you understand the ultimate truth. Your brain, like a computer, has the capacity to run this program, but simply installing it won't automatically lead to enlightenment. You, as the computer's user, must actively engage with the program, understand its processes, and explore its features. Only then can you attain enlightenment. The program itself cannot comprehend its own processes or features. It is the computer's user who understands them. Similarly, the intellect or mind cannot independently attain knowledge. It is you, beyond the mind, intellect, and body, who realizes it. This is your true self, the one that grasps wisdom. Inspired by the Matrix, we can view understanding our true self as awakening from a simulated reality or artificial existence. Just as Neo transcends the constraints of the Matrix when he realizes his reality as the One, we, too, can free ourselves from the bonds of ego and societal conditioning when we recognize our Advaita Brahman nature. This realization unlocks the full potential of our consciousness, enabling us to experience the ultimate form of free will. Thus, true freedom lies in merging with Brahman by transcending duality. Advaita represents the highest form of free will, where we dissolve into the infinite possibilities of the ultimate reality. That's all for this video. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.